Today on the Effort Over Results podcast, our guest is the real deal. Jake Smolarek is a powerhouse entrepreneur and high-performance coach who moved to the UK from Poland with just 150 pounds and turned grit into a multi-million pound empire. He's built businesses, coached thousands, and created a system, Vision GPS, that helps leaders stop drifting and start dominating. If you're tired of the fluff and want real strategies from someone who's been in the trenches, you're in the right place. Jake Smolarek, welcome to the EOR podcast. Let's go. Jake Smolarek, welcome to the EOR podcast. We're going to get right down to business today. I'm going to ask you a question. A lot of people talk about the dream of emigrating to a country with no money in their pocket and turning it into, $1 million business or great success. We hear that story all the time. This sounds like your story as well. We're not going to dig too deep into it, but you moved from Poland, your home country, to the UK at 19 with 150 pounds, roughly $180 in your pocket. And now you're scaling multi-million dollar businesses in the UK and around the world, and you're one of the most sought after coaches. So tell us about that journey quickly, and then we'll dig into everything that you do.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me here. That's a massive pleasure. So yeah, I had a big dream, I've been always dreaming big. I've been reading all those self-help books from quite early in my life. I started when I was like 13, 14, and all those books are saying you have to think big, you have to have mentors and stuff like that. But I didn't have any mentors around me. It was really tough to find someone, I have a lovely mom and a great brother and great friends, but we were kind of all not very rich, if you know what I mean. Not like super poor. I'm not saying that. We always had everything, but I always been dreaming big. I wanted to see the world, and one day I just decided like, hey, I want to go to London. First, I wanted to go to the UK, and then because London at the time was like the capital of the world, probably all together with New York, but New York is on the other side. So I just wanted to see something different, something more. Don't take me wrong, Poland is a beautiful country and rich country at the moment, but, over 20 years ago, not there yet. So yeah, I just decided, I packed, I landed on Gatwick Airport, and that's it. That the whole thing started.
Mom, Dad, I'm leaving. I'm moving to the UK.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So when you get there, like with that $180 in your pocket, like what's the first thing you do? Like what was going through your mind in those first few weeks and months of what you wanted to for this journey to turn out to be?
That's a good question. I had one thing in my head. I want to be successful and I want to be rich. And I had no idea what that meant at that time. Both. What success means. Success is different thing for different people. I wanted to be successful. I didn't know what that was. I wanted to be rich. I didn't know what that was. Today, 21 years later, I have a little bit more idea about it. But at the time, I was like I want more. I knew one thing. I wanted more. Definitely more. I landed there with 150 pounds in my pocket, and straight away I have to spend 39 pounds for a bus ticket from Gatwick airport to Abergavenny in Wales, which was like 1/4 of all my fortune. Like straight away I was like, Jesus Christ, what next? But yeah. And then I went to Wales. I started working in this 1-star restaurant, which turns out to be 1 Michelin star restaurant. So it wasn't that bad. It was a lovely restaurant, but yeah, it started like that.
So when did the transition come to, coaching and growing businesses? Did you start a business? Did you take on a business and help them? Like, what was that first step?
I knew that I want to have my own business, but, starting a business with only 100 and not even 150, but like 110 pounds in my pockets, it wasn't that straightforward. I had to have a job, but in my head, I already knew that like I want to have my own business. I was already planning everything. I was already creating that vision that like I need to have my own business. I need to find a mentor. It took me like almost 12 months to find a proper mentor. Yeah, I know it's a long time, but I was like, I'm not giving up. If people are saying, no, no, you stupid, you have stupid dreams. It's like all the time. I was like, next, next, next. I don't care. If you're not going to help me, I next again. And then finally I found a mentor in London. He invited me for a coffee. He asked me what I want. Very simple question, like, hey, what is it that you want? And I was like, I want to be rich. And he said, like, that's not the number. And I was like, okay, that's a good question. Yeah, that's not the number. And I said, like, I want to make £50,000 a year. And he kind of looked at me, he smiled. I think he was laughing rather than smiling, but he said, like, okay, everybody have to start somewhere. And then he said, okay, you have to start your own business. And I was like, okay, what business? By the way, we've been drinking coffee at Mayfair where he lives. And Mayfair is like one of the most expensive areas on the planet. It's like one of the most expensive areas in London as well. And he just looked around, he saw a scaffolding somewhere, and he said, like, you have to start construction business. And I said to him, like, but I know nothing about construction. It's just like, I know nothing about business. First of all, I know nothing about construction. And he looked at my eyes and he said, don't create yourself a job. Create systems, hire other people to do the job.
Yeah.
You must be the architect of that whole thing. You must be the conductor of the orchestra, not the worker. And I was like, okay, whatever that meant. I didn't know. I didn't understand at that time. I understand now. It's such a valuable lesson.
It's interesting what you said about you don't want to build a company to be an employee. Like you want to build systems to run things and be a conductor. And I love that because so many businesses are started today with the dream of having freedom and autonomy and independence, and I'm going to set my own hours. But most business owners become slaves to becoming an employee in their own business. Is that true?
That's 100% true. 100% true. There's an amazing book out there, quite old already, E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber.
Right.
I believe every single, especially young entrepreneur, they should read that because the whole book, it's actually a shortcut. The E-Myth is not E-Myth, it's the entrepreneur myth.
Yep.
And that's exactly what we were just talking about. It's a myth. Most people, they do all the mistakes, and instead of creating themselves freedom, they actually create not even a good job, because instead of working 8 hours a day, they have to work from 7 o'clock in the morning until 11 p.m.
Yeah.
And that's not freedom at all. This is not freedom.
So what's the difference, Jake? What's the difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner? Because every business owner might call themselves an entrepreneur, but I truly believe an entrepreneur is a unique individual. So how do you see the difference between the two?
I think we should define what business means, because if you are an accountant and you work for yourself and you have no employees, are you actually running a business? Yeah, maybe. I believe a business is something that it can run with or without you, and it still grows. That's business for me. And don't take me wrong, I'm a life coach. I kind of work. Well, yeah, I might be a life coach, a business coach, but I still have a team. It's not that it's just me, a one-man army, but there is a team behind me. But yeah, this is what I believe a real business is.
One of the first questions I ask the business owners that I work with is I say, if I were to give you 2 tickets for you and your spouse to go anywhere in the world, how long can you go away for before your business starts to fail? Before, you start getting phone calls and emergencies. And most business owners that I talk to say they might get away for a weekend. They might get away for a week at the longest, because they are the ones pulling all the strings, doing all the calls, doing all the work, and that's where they become slaves to their own business, and they become employees. So how do we build systems in businesses? What are some simple, straightforward advice that you can give business owners to separate themselves from that imprisonment, really?
Yeah, before I answer that, I'll tell you a funny story. One day, it was New Year's Eve. We were drinking coffee we were finishing breakfast with my girlfriend here in London. And we said, like, oh, it would be awesome maybe to go to Amsterdam and spend, a New Year's there. And what we did was like, okay, let's go. That's it. Decision made. We going, because we've been both entrepreneurs. We could do whatever we want. And we jump into the car. We drove for, I can't remember, is it like 8 hours or 6 hours or whatever it is. we get there. It was about 4, maybe 3 p.m. We spent a little bit of time. At about 6 p.m., we were like, no, it's a little bit boring here. It's a small. Actually, Amsterdam is not a massive city. It's a small. It's a
Yeah.
small city, or maybe a medium-sized town. We
Yeah.
said like, no, let's go to Paris. And then we went to Paris, and we landed at Paris like 1 hour before midnight. And then we spent like, it's just like you can do those things only when you have real freedom.
Right.
Only, when you decide what you can do with your life. That's real freedom for me. Money can help you with getting freedom, but I have a lot of people coming to me and they say like, hey, I want to make a lot of money. That's why I want to start my own business. There's nothing wrong with wanting to have money, but if that's the only reason behind you starting the business, you will probably fail.
Yeah. That's interesting point. And I remember something you said a few minutes ago when you were speaking to the mentor that you met in the UK, and he had said, what is it that you want? And you said, I want to be rich. And he goes, well, what is that number? What do you mean rich? And you said, well, 50,000 pounds a year, which is so funny because to every individual person, their idea of what rich is as a number is different. For you at the time, it was 50,000 pounds a year. For me, it might be 100,000 pounds, right? So it's different for everyone, correct? Did you catch that? Sorry, it looked like you froze for a second.
Can you say that again, please?
Yeah, I'll go start from the beginning. Your mentor in the UK said, what is it that you want? And you said, I want to be rich. And he said, what is that number? And you said 50,000 pounds a year. And even in the back of my mind, I thought that's not very much money, but to you, it
No.
was. To you, it was. For me, who grew up with nothing, my first job, which paid me roughly 50,000 a year, I thought I was rich. I'm the richest guy in the world at 50,000. But to everyone, it's different, right?
It's a different person. Look, for the person who has $10 million, this person will never understand a person who only have $200. It's a complete, because if you want to spend $20, if you have 200, it's a completely different decision than if you want to spend $20, but you actually have 10 million. It's a completely different decision. Like my decision when I had to spend 40 pounds, it was so difficult. I wanted to walk. Oh, that would be like a 3 days walk. But like, that was 1/4 of all the money I had that time. So it's a completely different decision.
Yeah. So let's move over to building businesses. And obviously you've been involved in this for a lot of years. Is building a business simple? Can it be simplified for those who want to do that?
It depends. I'll tell you this. If you know how to do it, it's simple. If you don't know how to do it, it's not that simple. For people who already started businesses and they've been successful, yeah, starting a business is pretty straightforward. But if you've never done it before, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. 100%. We all did it. That's why it's so important to actually have mentors and coaches and people who already done it, and people who can give us feedback. The most important thing is to get feedback from the right people. I'll give you it's my mom. She always wanted to give me advice. And as much as I love my mom, one day I had to say to her, like, Mom, you tried many times. You've never been a successful entrepreneur. You tried, and I appreciate that, but you never succeed. Please don't tell me what to do. Because I know that you care, but unfortunately, I cannot take advice from you. And it was a very difficult thing for her to swallow. But then she's like, okay, I trust you. I know what you do. Well, I know what you're doing. Well, I don't know what you're doing, but I trust that you do the right things. And from that day, she just stopped advising me. She's still advising my brother, and he's still angry about that. But that's a different story. I have to say, because I want to take advice from people who either they already did what I want to do, or they're giving me really good feedback. Like coaches, for example. That's what coaches do. They're giving you feedback because there's no emotion attached to it. They just I'm European, like I'm from Central Europe. We don't sugarcoat. We just tell you how it is. And my clients love it. And some people hate this one thing about me. Like, oh, like if you fat, I'll tell you that you're fat. I'm sorry, and maybe it's politically correct, but that's the truth.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Jake, when you first work with a client, number one, who are the types of clients you work with mostly, and what's the first question you ask them? Because you must have a straight ahead approach, because you're a no bullshit kind of guy. So what's the first thing you ask or tell them when you first meet with a client?
My first question is exactly the same question my mentor asked me 20 years ago, what is it that you want?
Love it.
And if I expect that you at least have a clue about it, if someone will come to me and say like, "Oh, I don't know, I really hate my life," I'm probably not the right coach. I'm too senior coach for something like that. But if someone will come to me like, "Hey, I'm running a business. It's a 3 million turnover, whatever, pounds, euros, dollars, but I don't have the time for anything." Like, yeah, let's talk. Because a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with time. A lot of entrepreneurs, if I ask them like, "Hey, do you exercise?" They would say like, "I don't have the time for it." I hear that all the time.
Hmm.
But the harsh truth is not that you don't have the time, it's not your priority.
Wow. That amen. I say that all the time. It's not about time. It isn't a priority. You're right.
100%. We all have the same amount of time. It doesn't matter if you Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Mark
Yeah.
Zuckerberg, you and I, because when people say like, "Oh, I need to manage my time better," it's not about managing your time. It's all about managing yourself and
Mm.
what decisions are you making and what do you prioritize. And it doesn't matter if you want to start a business or you want to be successful in something else, any project. You have to be, more often than not, people struggling with making decisions. So coming back to that question, what you ask, what kind of a people do you work with?
Yeah.
I either work with people who already know their vision, uh, or they at least they know direction they want to go. But if they have no direction or no vision whatsoever, they have no clue what to do, what they want to do with about their life. It's just like that's not me. Find someone, find a coach, who will charge you $50 per hour or something like that,
Mhm.
and start small and start creating. Because I believe if you want to get somewhere, you have to have a vision. I always say that the vision is your address where you want to go. Sometimes if you don't have to know the full address to start with. So if you know the city that you want to go, or at least direction, you can start making progress. But
Yep.
if you have no clue what is it that you want to do with your life, this is very difficult. The process will take time to build that vision. And sometimes people say like, "Oh my God, I'm not such a visionary person." Like, well, you don't have to be Bill Gates dreaming that one day every desk on this planet will going to have a computer on it, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
that was a bold vision. But Bill Gates, he's a genius. When people say like, "Oh yeah, but he's a dropout." Yeah, but he's a dropout from Harvard. I mean, like, that's a little bit of difference, right?
Different.
To
Yeah.
other dropouts. But anyway, yeah, so I love working with people who are either, I call them, they already winning and they want to go to the next level, or they want to become winners.
Yeah, I think it's hard for people to build their vision, build their dream, because a lot of them, there's limiting beliefs, which is something we could
Mm,
get into, but there's limiting beliefs about how much talent they might have, or maybe how much financial resources they have, and they limit themselves. Now, it doesn't mean you need to be outlandish with your dream, but it means let's talk about what that vision is. What do you truly want? And then figure out
mm,
from there what is actually doable. So tell us about, because I know you've developed a model, the Vision GPS model, and I believe that's what ties into what you're talking about when you say we need to have a vision first. You need to know the city you're
mm,
headed to, even if you don't know the exact address, which I call being directionally correct, not
mm.
absolutely correct. And it speaks to effort
Great.
over results, meaning you got to put the effort in going towards those goals and results you want. But then
Mm,
the goals and results you can't control. You don't know where it's going to head. All you can do is put the work in. So
yes.
tell us about your Vision GPS model. How did you develop it, and why is it a game changer for people?
You see, most people, when I ask them, or anybody will ask them the question, like, "What is it that you want?"
Yeah.
They have no idea. Most people will plan their wedding, they will plan their vacation or a holiday, as we say in the
Yep.
UK, and probably that's it. And everything else just randomly happened to them. Most people are like, they driving the car during the night with no lights. They actually going backwards and they hit something and they're like, "What is it? Oh, it's a new job." Okay. It's like, no, you can't do this. You have to carefully planning everything. So that's why you see, most we stop dreaming when we are about 20 plus something. When we are kids, we want to, we have those big dreams. We want to be astronauts and doctors and doing crazy things, and just like we want everything. We want to conquer the world. And then we grow up and we kind of becoming like a little bit grumpy, and we have to find a job, and we have to start making money, and then we make a little bit more, and then we spend more, and then we make more, and we spend more, and we're basically rat race, a proper rat race. And then 60 years later, and we retire, and then we die, and not such a great life. But those people with visions, they dream big. They're not afraid of dreaming big, because come on, at the end of the day, you only have one life. Are you going to care what someone said about your dreams when you were 25, when you are at 85 or 90 or 95? No, you're not going to give a shit about that.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't care what other people think about my dreams and my vision, or even about me. If they say like, "Hey, I don't like you," well, that's your problem, not mine.
Yep.
It's just like, I don't care. I care about people I care about. Mom, my partner, my brother, my close friends, and that's it. What anybody else thinks about me, I don't give a single shit. I don't
Hmm.
care. But that's why we shoot big dream. You know when they say like, if you're shooting to the stars and you land on the moon, you're still better off than most people. And this is
Yep.
so true.
Yeah.
If you dream big and you only succeed partly, I don't know, 1/5 or 1/3, you're
Yep.
still better off than most people, because most people, their dreams are average. They just want to be average. They want to be like everybody else.
They're
But
afraid
that's
to
not
fail. They're afraid
that
to fail,
wrong.
Jake.
Yes.
That's the limiting belief, and they're afraid to fail. And that's what we, when we talk about growth mindset means there is no failure, and it's an infinite game.
Yeah.
You just keep playing, and you keep setting new bars and new goals,
Mm.
and you keep going after it. And if you, like you said, if you shoot for the stars but you reach the moon, well, hell, all the steps you took towards it still taught you something. You learned from it, and you got better from it. But
Yeah.
that's what people are afraid of, is they're afraid to try and fail. And that comes from, how they were raised as a child and what they experienced growing up. And it's something that I experienced too. And I still have imposter syndrome. I still have limiting beliefs, right? But you got to break out of that. So how do you work with a client specifically, Jake? When you're working with a client, how do you deal with a client that has those limiting beliefs? How do you get them to break out of that?
Sometimes I'll tell them a little story. So I'll
Mm.
say, like, remember the 2007-8 crisis, the credit
Yep.
crunch. I started that business. So after that, talking to that mentor, I started that business. I built it. It was growing. And then 2007, I lost everything, like
Mm.
everything and more, which means loads of debt. So I lost everything. I lost the business. I lost my girlfriend. And I was also told that I only have a few months to live because I was pretty sick. And I remember like today when I said to my doctor, you know what? You are a horrible doctor. I was so pissed off. I said like, I will die when I decide to die, okay? And I left. And I was like, no way, I'm not giving up. And I called my mentor and I said, Patrick, the business failed. It's just I lost everything. And he said, congratulations.
Yeah.
Start again. Just start again. That's it. That's failing is part of the game. Failing is just one of those things that, I love what the founder of Nike said. You only have to succeed the last time. And until then, just have
Yeah.
fun, keep trying, because this is how it works in life. You try, you fail, you try, you fail, you fail, you fail, you fail, you fail, you fail, and then you succeed, and people will call you lucky
Right.
because they don't see all those failures. I often say that it's not failures. We're using the wrong F word. It's feedback, not failure. The
Love that.
failure is only when you stop trying. That's
you
the
go.
real failure. You're just like, I don't try anymore. Oh, I tried everything. Or I love when people coming to me and they say like, oh, Jake, you're not going to believe it. I try everything and nothing works. And I was like, oh, so you tried what, 10,000 things? I'm like, whoa, no. It's like, so how many have you tried? 1,000, 500, 200? And usually they say like, well, yeah, I tried this one thing, wait, maybe two. It's like, that's it? Like, success is the numbers games, always. Sometimes you get a little bit lucky and sometimes not. But luck is not strategy. And I do believe in luck, but luck is not distributed the same. Some people are a little bit more lucky and some people are not. But I always believe that the more you do, the more you try, the more people you talk to, the luckier you get. As simple as that.
I believe that everything happens for a reason, and all we can do is control our effort. And then after that, it's really up to the universe, to God, whatever you want to call it. But really, all we can do is put one foot in front of the other and stick to a plan and modify it and keep
Mm.
trying and never give up. And then whatever comes at you, the opportunities that come at you, you might have had a goal to start $1 million, you said Nike. So let's say $1 million shoe business, and it ended up being a full clothing line that made, $100 million. You don't know where it's going to go. And that's what
Mm.
I think, that's where I think people really, really fail in their minds, is that they're so fixated on one goal that they lose sight of opportunities that could be happening along the way, right? And so
100%.
I believe that two of the greatest, things that stop owners, business owners, entrepreneurs, whatever you want to call it, the two things that are the worst enemies to entrepreneurs, one is distraction and
Mm.
two is ego. And what I mean by that, distraction is, somebody said something about our company, or they don't think I'm going to do well, or, and you're getting distracted by all the noise and the fucking, all the bullshit that's out there around you. Or, oh, somebody came up with a new idea. Oh, we should add this service or this product. And it's like, stay focused, stay in your lane, look at opportunities, but don't get distracted. That's one. Two, it's
Mm.
ego. The ego gets in the way because we don't, people are so afraid to ask for help. They're so
Mm.
afraid to admit where they're weak and where they need to get strong. You know how many business owners, like in the last 15 years, I've probably met with 2,000 business owners easily. And I would say a good third of them are the ones who are like, nope, we're good. We don't need your help. We know everything. Well,
Mm.
that's fine. Go ahead then, because I don't care how good you are. The best athletes in the world still have a coach. The
Yes.
best companies in the world still try to get better. Even if they're at 99.9%, they want
Mm.
100.
Mm.
So what do you think about that statement, Jake, when I say ego and distraction are two of the greatest enemies to entrepreneurs?
Distractions, sense.
Yeah.
Ego, yes, it's there. First of all, you have to understand that you don't know everything.
Right.
It's
Don't know what you don't know.
no, you don't know what you don't know. That's it. That's why you want to talk to people. You want to take their advice. Well, you can listen to their advice. You don't have to take that advice. You know how many free consultations I had because I just asked the right question at the right time? Because people love to help. People love to tell their stories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's delegation. If we're talking about time management or one of the best skills in entrepreneurship, it's delegation. You want to delegate as much as you can. One of my favorite books, Timothy Ferris, The 4 Hour Work Week. It's
Right.
quite an old book, 2007, right? Almost
Yeah.
20 years old, but it's still relevant. It's still saying exactly the same thing that we can talk about today. It's like delegate as much as you can. Only concentrate on the things that are the most important, or you are the only person who can do them or do them right, and then delegate everything else. Today, in today's world, when we have ChatGPT and different tools like this, delegation is so much easier. Sure, of course, you have to use ChatGPT properly. You have to delegate properly because everything can be done okay-ish and everything can be done nicely and proper. Event delegation. Yeah, delegation is number one. But ego, I always say to my clients, sometimes you just have to take your ego and put it in the pocket
Yeah.
because it's not serving you. It's hurting you a lot.
Yeah.
And especially when I work with men for men, one of the most difficult thing for men to do is to say, help.
Yeah.
I need help. Because they Superman syndrome, that they want to do and fix everything themselves rather than just like, hey, you can delegate that. You don't have to be there alone.
And that
You will
doesn't
be
mean you that doesn't
no,
mean it doesn't mean you don't have confidence. You can have confidence,
no,
but it just means you have to, in the right moment, you need to be vulnerable and know when to ask for help.
yes. I was listening to one of your, I think it was a short on your YouTube, and you were talking about being vulnerable, and there's
Right.
nothing wrong with being vulnerable, but just don't be weak. I think it's Peter. What's he's talking about? Jordan Peterson, who's talking about it,
Yes.
like, be a monster. And I 100% agree.
Yeah.
It's better to be, it's better to be a warrior at the garden rather than a gardener at war, because you are not prepared for it. I always say to people, you have to be prepared. Prepare for every battle. When people cry about like, oh my God, my mom was 95 and she just passed away, and people crying. Yes, this is sad, but you have to be prepared for the tough moments in life like this. Yes, this is not nice. When my dad passed away, I wasn't happy about it, but at the same time, I wasn't crying for the whole year. Yes, I was sad for a few days, and then I was celebrating those best moments that I had
Right.
with him. It's like, because why would you? Yes, of course, but there's nothing you can do with it. And I always say to people, be prepared. As an entrepreneur, be prepared that something will happen. You always have to watch. So when I have that vision GPS, vision is something that you want to create. This is basically this is your destination. Where do you want to go? Interesting thing is, you will never catch your vision. You will never achieve your vision because your vision will change all the time.
Yeah.
Your vision from 10 years ago, uh, it will be different. So vision is something so flexible, it will keep changing. But then the GPS, it's an acronym from goals, planning process, and systems. Goals you will achieve. And this is what you want to achieve. Goals, long-term goals, short-term goals, but vision, you want your vision to change. You want your vision to grow and change. Because what happens when we achieve goals? For example, you want to buy your dream car. You buy that car, and not even after a week, but after a few days, it will be just a car. That's it. And then you will be asking yourself, okay, what next? What next? I need to chase something because we will only kind of one thing that make us happy. It's progress. If we're not making progress, we're not happy. And if we're not making decisions, when we procrastinate, we're just not happy. I never met a person who procrastinate who's happy.
Right.
Never, ever.
Yeah.
And don't take me wrong. I was procrastinating myself. I was so good at procrastinating that I could teach it. I was so good.
Well, that's
And
not
then
fear though, right? That's the procrastination
no,
is just fear.
but then I realized that everybody procrastinates. Everybody procrastinate. It's just successful people procrastinate on minor things, and unsuccessful people procrastinate on major things. That
Or
when
everything.
people ask me what's the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people, in a nutshell, it's people who are successful, people who are unsuccessful, they're afraid of doing things and they do not do them. People who are successful, they also afraid, but they just do that fucking thing. That's it.
Yeah.
I always say, like, if you're afraid, do it afraid, but do it.
A good friend of mine, I had him on the podcast a month ago, and and the statement he said that stood out for me was, quote, risk is just a data point. And that really sunk in because it's true for entrepreneurs. Risk is just it's part of the journey. You know what's going to happen. You know you're going to fail. You know you're going to maybe waste money. You're going to waste resources. It's just part of the journey. It's a data point in the in the Excel spreadsheet. But people who like you said, procrastinate, put things off, or waiting for a perfect scenario to happen, they're the ones that are, like I said, it's fear, Jake, right? It's fear of failure. It's fear of moving forward and having something go wrong. It's fear of what people think of you. That's really where the procrastination comes in. It basically is just that fear. But a person who is a true entrepreneur, it's not about not having fear. Of course you're going to have some, hesitation, but risk is just part of the game.
Yeah,
And you have to
100%.
accept. And once you accept that, man, it just opens up so many doors, but you've got to keep working. And like I said, business is an infinite game, right? It never ends.
No, because you cannot win business. I think it's Simon Sinek who's talking about this quite a lot. Oh, I love Simon. He's talking great stuff, but you cannot win business. Look, sometimes Microsoft is winning and sometimes Apple is winning. Maybe not winning. They're ahead, leading or something like that. But because you cannot win business, you cannot win in business, but you can get better and better and better. You also said about fear. I think the FOMO effect, the fear of missing out, it's a big part that people are not starting or they procrastinate because they are so afraid about, let's say, leaving money on the table. But you're going to leave money on the table. You cannot do everything. You cannot start every single business out there. But the thing is, you might find a better table with more money on it. So sometimes you have to leave that table with that money on it, and then you find something else. And we were talking about earlier, like your first business, probably your first business is not going to be the business that you're going to be running for the rest of your life. Maybe if you're lucky, but it's only a few people that, like Mark Zuckerberg. But even Mark Zuckerberg, Facebook wasn't his first business. Steve Jobs, Apple wasn't his first business. Interesting fact, Apple was basically a side hustle, a small side hustle when Steve Wozniak was working, I think it was HP. And Steve Jobs was working for Atari, was it? I think doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, but and it was side hustle, and suddenly now it's like one of the like $3 trillion company. It was like nobody would think about
That's a
something
good
like
side.
that. That's a good side hustle,
Yeah.
yeah. Like my coaching was a side hustle for a long time. I just had people coming to me for advice, like, oh, what would you do with this, and what would you do with that, and how would you approach this? And I was like, I need to start charging those people,
Yeah.
for all that advice. And they were clever. They've been delegating to me, but yeah. And now it's my main business. I love it. I can do it every single day.
So we talked about business being an infinite game, and risk is just part of it, and failure only happens when you give up. So tell me a moment, Jake, because there had to be at least a moment where you thought about giving up, and what kept you going after you hit that rock bottom, that crisis of meaning moment where it's like, I don't think I can keep doing this. But what kept you going? Give us an example of that in your own life.
My vision, to be honest with you. That's why I always say to people, you have to have a vision,
Yeah.
because when you're going to have a bad day, this is going to be your North Star. This is going to be something that is going to push you. That's why this vision needs to be big, scary, and you must have a reason there. The book by Simon Sinek, Start with Why. Your vision is your why. If your vision is not, I don't really want to say, I don't want to use the word motivation, because motivation is overrated. But
Yeah.
if your vision is not inspiring you to never give up, it's not big enough yet. It's not the right vision. Maybe you chasing not the right things. Maybe you're not chasing your goals. Maybe you're chasing somebody else's goal.
Right.
Sometimes I ask people like, why do you want to buy a Lamborghini? And they're like, oh, it's such a cool car. Like, yeah, but tell me why. Oh yeah, because of this. Like, no. Have you ever sit in one? No. Have you ever? Well, if you have never sit in one, you never drove one,
Drove
right?
one.
No. Like, how do you know this is your fucking dream then?
Yeah.
It's your society telling you that this is your dream, but maybe it's not. Believe me, I've been driving Italian cars. They're not as fucking great as you think. Don't take me wrong. Are they beautiful? Etc. etc. But I like German cars. I'm a Mercedes-Benz guy. Everything is perfect there. It's just like, this is what I love. Maybe because I like precisions. But coming back to answering your question, you have to have your why, and your vision is your why. When your vision is clear, like, I don't want to say 100%, but let's say even 90% or even 80%. Like, if your vision is 80% clear, that's way more than most people. If you know where you're going, you're not going to give up. Like, one of my biggest dreams in the past, I already achieved it a long time ago. It was to buy my mom an apartment, her own apartment, so she doesn't have to pay the fucking rent. It's just like, it's her. And when it happened, and I was giving her keys, I was crying. I was like, that was my biggest goals, one of the biggest, and one of the goals that were pushing me not to give up. And believe me, I had days when I was driving my van around London when I still had the construction business, and I was crying, basically crying, especially when I lost everything. And then I think about my mom, and I think about my brother, and I think about my partner. I wasn't even thinking about myself. It's just like, because you have to find what's pushing you. And that was pushing me. I was like, sure, okay, I'll cry today, but from tomorrow, no one will stop me. It's like, you're coming from sport. It's like when you lost a game, it's not a nice feeling, but you're not going to give up. You're not going to say like, hi, I'm not going to play football anymore. No, this is not how champions are made. They're like, okay, I lost. I will be angry. I will hit a locker. But tomorrow we're going to fucking destroy them.
Better. Yeah.
Right? This is the champions. This is the winning attitudes. Because yeah, you're going to lose some game in your life. Yeah, you're going to fail from time to time. It's part of the game, a longer game. But if you plan for it, if you know that you're going to fail and something's going to happen, it's so much easier to play that game. And then when you're prepared, so going back to that vision GPS, vision, we already know. Goals, we know. Again, we have to have SMART goals, just to clarify, like specific, measurable, attainable, because we have to measure that. And then a P is for planning process. You see, it's not just the plan, it's a planning process. And sometimes people asking me, okay, what's the difference between plan and planning process? Well, plan is fixed. You're following the plan. If something happens, pandemic, for example, and you cannot follow your plan anymore, you're fucked. But planning process is flexible. Planning process, that's why you have to watch all the time what's going on around your business and around your life. You have to be prepared all the time, like a predator, like what's going on. That's why it's so important to have the planning process in place. That planning process is based on the book called The Art of War by Sun
Oh,
Tzu.
yeah,
It's not 100% of it, but it's partly based of it.
sure. Yeah.
You observing the enemy. You have to know everything or as much as possible what's going on, so you can adapt as quickly as you can. Because even if you, like in Formula One, if you lose 1 second, you might lose the whole game.
Yeah.
So yeah, planning process is so important. And then S is for systems. You have to have different kind of systems in place to help you. Like, I started my first business, it was construction business, but because I started construction business, I had to learn how to do Google Ads. And I thought I'm going to hate that process because I'm not a spreadsheet guy. Yeah, I understand numbers, but like, and I love Google Ads. I loved doing the campaigns and everything. And construction, did I love construction? No, but it was just, learning how to run a business. Every business, the basics, the fundamentals are the same. You have to learn how to sell, you have to learn how to build a brand, and you have to learn how to market, do the marketing. And the most important thing, you have to learn how to find customers. You have to, lead generation. Every single business is up to lead generation. So for example, for me, systems are like search engine optimization, that you are up there and people see you. Google Ads, it's a system, right? There's a beautiful book, Atomic Habits by James Clear,
Yeah.
and he's
Love it.
talking about systems a lot. And one of the simplest systems is like, if you want to go to the gym tomorrow, prepare everything the day before, put it in the in the middle of the living room,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the chances that you go to the gym are so much higher. As simple as that.
Environment. Yeah.
You need to have habits and rituals that you follow, and because I think most people don't understand that success takes time, a lot of time. And yes, sometimes you're a little bit lucky and you will succeed quickly, and sometimes it will take you 7 years. But this is how you build an overnight success. It takes years of everyday work. You like going to the gym every day for the next 7 days a week for the next 5 to 10 years, not skipping a day, and then suddenly you becoming a champion.
That's what we preach here, Jake. It's effort over results. We cannot control the outcome because we don't know what life's going to throw at us.
No.
But you need to be directionally correct, like I said before, and head towards those things and put in the work and the steps you need the inputs. You need to put in the inputs that lead to you towards something like the city, like you said, but not an address. But who knows? Maybe there's a detour along the way that takes you to a small town that was way better than what you were planning on in the first place.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that people, like I said, people get so fixated on one thing. And it's like, no, it's not about one thing. It's about day one and taking those steps towards an area, towards a city, and then whatever happens along the way, you adjust. You can still plan for it. And I do a lot of strategic planning, and I'm sure you've done that too with companies. And you build this document that's this thick, and it's this plan for the next 3 to 5 years. And then it gets blown up in the first year because a pandemic happens, or you lose your general manager, or what. But nobody ever said strategic planning was flawless and 100% going to work. It just meant that you had a playbook. It's like a football team having a playbook for the season, and then implementing that for each week and each team they play against, and altering it as each team comes and who's your opponent. And that's what I love about sports and business. There's so many analogies and metaphors between sports and business. But our greatest, like I said, I believe our greatest enemy as entrepreneurs and as business owners and just as people in general is ourselves. There's nothing out there that really can get in the way. And people who spend their lives blaming others, blaming the government, blaming taxes, blaming the competition and whatever, they're never going to get ahead. The two best words that you can say to yourself in any situation when you're struggling is my fault. It means, what am I going to do about this? Because if you just sit back and you just go, well, it's because the government did this, so what am I going to do? Well, you got to do something. You have to choose, and you have to put action, because action is the only thing that takes care of the problems in your life. Sitting and doing nothing does not help. So, on that point, what is the difference between being good at something and becoming a fucking legend, as you like to put it?
You see, I like to say it's the time and effort.
Yeah.
To become a fucking champion, there's a recipe for that. Like, if you want to have the greatest dish or whatever, you follow the recipe, right? And you stick to the recipe.
Yeah.
So it goes like this. First, you learn the recipe. Then you practice the recipe. Then you master the recipe. And then you become a fucking legend. The big problem is that people usually skip 1, 2, sometimes even 3 steps. They want to become a fucking legend today or tomorrow. Yeah. It's not going to happen. It takes time. You know when they say like it takes 10,000 hours to be really excellent at something? I do agree with that, but I have to say like it depends from person to person. For one person, it's going to be 5,000 hours. And for another person, it's going to be 25,000 hours. You know? It took me years to learn to speak English, and I'm still not perfect, far away from perfect, because I like mathematics, physics, chemistry. Those are my subjects. History, learning languages, not so much. But I just said like, okay, if it's going to take me 30,000 hours, let's go ahead with it, because 1,000 hours will pass anyway. 7 years will pass anyway. But you have to stick to the recipe. You have to learn first. You have to understand the recipe. And then you have to keep practicing the recipe. You're going to the gym to see results. And then you have to master the recipe, and then you can start changing the recipe. Unfortunately, most people, they want to start changing the recipe before even understanding the recipe, way before even mastering the recipe. So there is always a sequence, but it's almost a guarantee that you will become a champion, the fucking champion, but you have to follow the steps. You have to follow the sequence. It's like, if you want to call me, there's a sequence of numbers that you have to dial, and then you will reach me. But if you missed one number, or if you messed up 2 numbers, you will never ever reach me. As simple as that. You just follow the recipe. Sure, some people are a little bit more lucky, and some people are not. But everything takes time. I always say to people, if you want to achieve your vision, it will probably take you 3 times longer than you think, and it's going to be probably 4 times more expensive than you think. But it is what it is, and you just go ahead with it. You have to accept it.
So, Jake, you are unapologetically bold in your messaging, and I love it. And that's why we're here today, and that's why I wanted you on the show. But have you ever felt pressure to soften your approach at all? Or do you just believe leaders need to hear the hard truth more than ever?
No, I mean, sometimes I do like, let's say, motivational speech at schools, and they ask me not to swear, for example, and it's fine, I can do it. It's okay, it also sure I'm very bold, but I have different clients, and some clients I really want to work with, and I don't want to say they snowflakes. I don't work with snowflakes, but they're a little bit more gentle, and you have to be a little bit more nicer and gentle with them.
Well, maybe those aren't your clients though. Like, I don't care how much they want to pay you.
Oh yeah.
But those might not be your clients. They're not gonna respond.
I said no to many clients even those clients was like, yeah, but I've got the money. Yeah, but I don't give a shit. I don't want to work with you at all because you're a douchebag. I just don't like you.
It's not a good fit. It's not a good fit, right?
No. I always offer like an initial consultation session, and it's completely free, and sometimes it takes up to 2 or 3 hours, sometimes even longer. But I had initial consultation sessions that last 7 minutes. And I have to say, like, I'm really sorry, but it's just not going to work out. Well, I'll pay you twice as much. You can pay me anything you want. It's just not going to happen because we are not. And I've been always using the 80-20 rule for a very long time. Maybe not forever, but in my construction business, in my PR business, in my marketing digital business that I'm running at the moment, in coaching business, obviously. You don't want to work with anyone. I want to work with people who I will have fun with, that I'm excited about. Like when it's Sunday, like today, I can't wait to see my clients tomorrow morning. It's just like, I want to go to bed now. If you know what I mean. It's just like, because this is what you want to create. You want to create a business that you love doing it. But if you have no idea what business to start, it doesn't really matter what business, because you just have to start something, learn the basics, and you can always sell it, ditch it, just leave it, and then start doing something that excites you a little bit more. It pisses me off when people say like, you have to find your passion and follow your passion. And but I think they don't understand how passion become passion. Sometimes I ask people, do you like surprises? And people are like, oh yeah, we love surprises. Bullshit. You only like surprises that you like. Surprises that you don't like, you call problems or something like that.
Yeah.
So you can only develop passion to something if you're good at something, you like doing it, and then this become passion. But you cannot just be passionate about something just because. If you don't know how to cook, it's not going to be your passion, at least not straight away, because you're not good at it. And if you're not good at it, you're not that excited of actually doing it. So, to be honest with you, I only know a few people with like real passion to something. Most people, they're only good at something or decent at something. But I only know, I don't know, maybe 7, 8 people who are like really passionate about something, but really passionate. Because I think we overuse that word in English, the same like we overuse word friend. Hey, Ben, meet my new friend Quinn. Well, he's not your friend yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And when you talk about, the passion thing, I want to go back to something you said at the start of our conversation about, what is it that you want? And I think those people who decide to go into starting a business or entrepreneurship and whatever, and their number one motivation is money, it's not sustainable. They might gain money, they might do really well, but if it's not something that they truly have a connection to and feel like it's part of their vision, that money really doesn't matter in the end. And those who are only driven by money don't succeed. I mean, at least they don't succeed for very long, because it's constant, change and hit and miss. So let's finish on this, Jake. What is success? We talked about it earlier, and you did say success can mean many different things to everybody. So what does success mean to you? And how has that definition maybe changed since you first started? So when you first started, you said $50,000 a year. That was kind of what you wanted to get out of it. 25 today, what does success mean to Jake Smolarek?
First of all, I want to wake up every single morning and be happy. Or let's say, if not happy, I want to be fulfilled every day, because it's probably impossible to be happy every single day.
Right.
But it's possible to be fulfilled every day. Love what I do. And another part of what success means to me is to help other people achieve exactly the same thing. That you wake up in the morning and you feel fulfilled. You love what you do. And it doesn't matter what it is. If you want to be successful because you want to be a teacher and this is what makes you happy, amazing, do that. But first of all, you have to know what is it that you want, because if you don't know, you're not going to be happy, at least not for a very long time. So yeah, I want to help other people find their vision or create their vision, follow that vision. I want to leave that when I die. I want to make sure that there's more people with big vision achieving that vision when I die, when in compared to now. You know what I mean? I just want more. I want to create more dreamers, but not just dreamers, but also doers.
Yeah. And that's, that's why I got into this, is because my joy comes from seeing other people succeed, and whatever that success is for them. Maybe it's losing 10 pounds. Maybe it's, starting a business and now the business is up and running. Maybe it's hitting that first million, whatever it is. If I was able to be part of that and help them succeed, that's where I get my joy from. And it sounds like that's where you get your joy from. Jake, you know what a wonderful conversation today. I want you to tell everybody where they can find you. What are your socials on social media, website? Let's go. Let's promote you. Let's get you out there.
I mean, the easiest thing is go to Google me, Jake Smolarek, Smolrek, and you will find my website. You will find my socials, my Instagram, my TikTok, everything. And unfortunately, there's not that many Jake Smolareks out there.
I Googled you and it came up right away. It was your website right away. So yeah, it's a very unique name, which certainly helps you. Jake, what a wonderful conversation. Thank you for joining us here today. To our audience, I hope you learned something today, that you can be a fucking legend, as Jake likes to say, and it's easy to master the things that you want to master if you have a vision. And so if you want to reach out to Jake, go to his socials, go to his website, reach out to him. But other than that, thank you for being on the EOR podcast, Jake, and have a great day.
Thank you very much. That was exciting.